Jobs alive and well in Egypt. His face looks as you'd imagine it would 8 years later, and he's even wearing the same glasses that Jobs was famed for wearing. Could this mean he's still alive and pursuing a different path to enlightenment? Or is this all just a big coincidence?
Through the roof about this.
Number 14. Paul Walker. Paul Walker was an actor who had been in the public eye since starring in a series of high-profile movies in the late 90s. But it was his role as Brian O'Connor that propelled him to international superstardom. In 2013, at the height of his career and midway through filming the 7th entry in the franchise, he was riding as a passenger in his friend's Porsche Carrera GT when it crashed into a lamppost and instantly set on fire, tragically killing both people inside. Events following the incident have, however, convinced people that he may actually still be alive. There were questions about why the autopsy report took so long to be released. Images show that the license plates and even color of the car were different before and after the accident. Number 13. Juan Gabriel. Juan Gabriel was famed throughout Latin America for his flamboyant style and was a noted singer, songwriter, and actor. He sold more than 100 million records around the world and is thought to have written upwards of 1,800 songs. He died at the age of 66 as a result of a heart attack. But there are some who believe there's more to the story, including his former manager. The theory, according to him, was that Gabriel had suffered some health complications and faked his own death so he could spend more time at home to recover, before one day returning to the public realm. The fact that no autopsy was performed is seen by some fans as further evidence his death was a hoax, and that it's possible the constant fame and attention had simply become too much for him. Number 12. Jim Morrison. Jim Morrison was the lead singer of The Doors, an influential rock band that formed in 1965 and is often cited as being one of the greatest bands ever. He himself is said to be one of the greatest frontmen ever thanks to the lyrics he wrote and his on-stage persona. But everything came to a sudden end in 1971 when, at the age of 27, he died in a bathtub, supposedly as a result of heart failure. There had long been rumors that he was still alive and had decided to retreat from public life, and in 2016 a documentary maker released a film that claimed he was living homeless in New York. Now known as Richard, he refuses to confirm or deny if he truly is Morrison, but the physical similarities are undeniable. Number 11. Andy Kaufman. Famed actor, comedian, writer, and wrestler Andy Kaufman became a worldwide name in the late 1970s and early 80s because of his role as Laka Gravas on the TV show Taxi. But in 1984, at the age of 35, he died as a result of lung cancer. Because he was known for playing pranks, it has been thought ever since then that there was a chance that he faked his own death. And these rumors were reawakened in 2013 when his own brother said that he received a letter in 1999 that confirmed Kaufman was indeed alive. At an award show, he even introduced a 24-year-old woman that he claimed was his brother's daughter, who had been conceived more than 5 years after his supposed demise. He just wanted to be a stay-at-home dad, she said, but since then there's been no further evidence that he's still with us.
Only the best videos.
Number 10. Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain was the icon of a generation. As lead singer and guitarist of Nirvana, he spearheaded the emergence of grunge music in the late 80s and early 90s, with songs like Smells Like Teen Spirit and the band's seminal album, Nevermind. His success was, however, against a backdrop of a fraught personal life, and the world was shocked to its core in April of 1994 when, aged 27, he committed suicide. There are, though, many people who think this was just a hoax and that he's very much still alive. In 2019, images of a man enjoying the sunshine in France were shared around the internet, pointing out his striking similarity to the singer, and reignited suggestions that the fame had become too much for him, and he had no choice but to retreat to a life of privacy. We may never know the full truth surrounding what happened to him, but either way, it was a tragic loss to music fans everywhere. Number 9. Richie Edwards. Formed in 1986, the Manic Street Preachers are one of the most successful Welsh bands of all time, known for confronting political issues throughout all of their music. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding them, however, was the disappearance of original lyricist and guitarist Richie Edwards, who went missing in 1995. In 2008, his parents obtained a court order that stated he had died in that year, but without a body or any evidence to suggest what happened to him. There are long-standing rumors that he, instead, ran away from the pressures of fame to live a simpler life. with some even claiming he had Asperger's syndrome and needed to shut the rest of the world out. His sister also believes his disappearance was staged, and there have been a number of supposed sightings in the past 2 decades as far afield as Israel and Thailand. It's a mystery that may never fully be solved, but for fans of the band, the dream of his eventual return is still alive.
Now nothing really annoys us anymore.
Number 8. Michael Jackson. In 2009, the pop world changed forever with the announcement of the death of Michael Jackson. He had been in the middle of preparations for a new tour, and the following months would see accusations of his record label and his personal doctor for pushing him too hard and providing him with dangerous medications. But there's still another theory around his death that hasn't been fully explored, that it was all a hoax. It's hardly a secret that he was facing accusations of an incredibly serious kind, and maybe he decided his time in the public eye had to come to an end. Several people who worked with the King of Pop are convinced that he's still alive. Numerous photos and images have been released that supposedly prove it's the case. One of these is his death certificate, where his middle name is spelled differently to how it was on his passport, and the suggestion is that all of his family and friends are also in on the plot, and may even still regularly see him. Number 7. Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart was a pioneer of her time. She was the first female to complete a solo flight across the Atlantic Ocean, wrote a series of best-selling novels about her experiences, and helped set up the 99s, a networking organization to help support female pilots that's still in operation to this day. She notoriously went missing in 1937 at the age of 39 somewhere over the Pacific Ocean while trying to complete a circumnavigation of the world. Many assume she had died. There are, however, a number of theories that suggest she survived and wanted to escape the publicity of her life, and a photo was found recently that seems to show her alive a few years after her fateful trip on a dock in the Marshall Islands. Could one of the world's most famous aviators really have faked her death? And if so, where did she live out the rest of her life? We'll probably never know for sure. Before we move on, be sure to subscribe to Top 5s with notifications on. Number 6. XXXTentacion. XXXTentacion was a rapper and songwriter who burst onto the scene in 2017 with his single Look at Me and his album 17. Figures in the industry were excited where he would go next, and while he did release another album the following year, he was shot dead in Deerfield Beach, Florida in June of 2018. He had been shopping for a motorcycle when it happened, and despite countless documents supporting the story, there are still many fans who believe it to all be a hoax. There are videos that supposedly show him alive that circulate on social media, and suggestions that his life was so seriously in danger that his only course of action was to drop off the radar. It's highly unlikely that even with this risk, he would have cut short his burgeoning music career. But still, some of his fans hold on to the hope he might one day return. Number 5. Tupac Shakur. The rap world has long been mired in tragic stories of murder and gang rivalries, but there's none as notorious as the story of Tupac Shakur. He became one of the best-selling artists of all time, having sold more than 75 million records, but most of those have been posthumous, because in 1996 he was shot 4 times in his car after attending a boxing fight in Las Vegas. He was taken to the hospital, where he was put into a medically induced coma, and less than a week later, he finally succumbed to his injuries that had caused massive internal bleeding. Since that day, there have been rumors that he actually survived the attack and was forced into hiding by his record label. His increased fame as a result of his death has meant that even more people have become convinced that he's still alive, and in 2018 a video was released that purportedly show him living in Malaysia. There have been numerous claimed sightings of him since his death in countries all over the world, from LA and New York to as far away as Sweden and even Somalia. While his music certainly lives on, barely a month goes by without another supposed sighting of him, with a certain contingent of fans remaining convinced that he'll one day return in one of the greatest comebacks of all time. Number 4. Princess Diana. Diana, Princess of Wales, gained a position that most young girls dream of, but her experiences in the limelight gave everyone in the world an insight into what was involved in being part of a modern royal family. Despite her best attempts to make things work, she finally had no choice but to leave the firm and try to forge a new life. This plan was horrifically cut short one night in 1997, as the car she was in crashed into a pillar of a tunnel in Paris while trying to evade paparazzi. The world went into a period of mourning for the lost princess, but countless conspiracy theories began being spread afterwards. There were those claiming that her death wasn't an accident and had all been arranged by the British royal family, and there are those who believe it was a hoax in order to be able to spend the rest of her life outside of the public eye. One particularly wild theory is that she's living in high society in France as a socialite after pictures were shared of her in 2019. With very similar features, Odine de Rothschild certainly looks like Diana, but obviously denies there to be any validity to the rumors. There are countless other suggestions, too, that the real Diana is living on her family's estate after becoming sick and tired of the way that she was being treated in the press. Number 3. James Dean. James Dean quickly became one of Hollywood's leading men during the 50s after starring in Rebel Without a Cause and East of Eden. But he would never go on to star in any other high-profile movies while he was alive, because in 1955, at the age of 24, he was involved in a fatal car crash. He was the first person to win a posthumous Oscar for Best Actor.
James Dean in East of Eden.
There are talks to digitally recreate him for a movie to be released soon. Could it all have been based on a lie? He's regarded as one of the lost greats. But is it possible that his death was faked in agreement with the movie studio as a way to return to a life of privacy? According to one theory, he actually moved to Canada to live his life in peace because he hated the fame and the way people obsessed over him, and only actually died in April of 2019 at the age of 87 in a car crash. The crash in 1955 was apparently survivable according to a doctor who's looked at the details, especially because he was still alive when the ambulance arrived on the scene. Furthermore, Alberta police confirmed that an elderly man did die in a car crash in April 2019 in Three Hills, which matches up with the story that's being told. If true, it would be the greatest Hollywood conspiracy of all time. But now, we'll probably never know for sure. Number 2. Elvis. The king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, was one of the most influential cultural icons of the 20th century, thanks to his varied career in music and on film. He began recording self-funded singles in 1953, before being signed and performing in TV for the first time in the following year. But it would be in 1956 that he exploded onto the national stage. What followed was a career that went from strength to strength, with a break between 1958 and 1960 for a stint in the military. Following his return, he starred in more than 30 movies, including Viva Las Vegas and Blue Hawaii, and of course recorded countless hit songs like Hound Dog, All Shook Up, Stuck on You, and Heartbreak Hotel. He had legions of fans and was known the world over, but all good things come to an end, and for him, it came too soon in 1977, at the age of 42. He had fallen into a state of poor health, having recently split from his wife, and he was found dead on his bathroom floor by his new girlfriend. The cause of death was said to be heart failure that had been brought on by the presence of 14 different drugs in his system. But could it be possible that this was all a hoax to escape from the pressures of his life? There are many who think so, and stories of him still being alive are some of the most common conspiracy theories you'll ever hear. In fact, a recent poll found that 20% of Americans believe that he's still alive. These rumors began soon after his death when, in 1977, he was supposedly seen in Memphis International Airport boarding a plane to Buenos Aires. His funeral also raised a number of questions, such as why his coffin appeared to be so heavy for the pallbearers. And some who had seen his body said that something didn't look right, almost as if it was a wax figure. The spelling of his middle name on his tombstone is apparently wrong too, which some see as a sign from Elvis himself that he's not actually buried there. Further sightings were claimed in the late 80s in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which was somewhere the king had played a few months before he died. And this spawned a number of reports from people who saw him doing day-to-day things like filling a car with gas and eating a burger at a Burger King. While all this falls in line with the idea he wanted a life away from the fame, there's another theory that's far more outlandish, that he actually features in a scene in Home Alone that was filmed in 1990. The rumors still haven't stopped, and in 2019, a story began to spread that he was now going by the name Bob Joyce and working as a pastor in Arkansas. People clearly still aren't ready to accept that the king has truly gone, and perhaps one day they'll be proved right. Number 1. Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix was undoubtedly one of the greatest and most influential guitarists in history, and it's amazing to think that his musical career only lasted for 4 years. His life was tragically cut short at the age of 27 when he died as a result of drug use in a hotel in London. This was devastating to his fans, and many believe that his brief glimpse of fame had showed him that this wasn't the path he wanted his life to follow. Quite what he chose to do or where he went is unclear, but there was a lot of mystery and missing details about his final hours that fueled the speculation. Recently, a video was shared of a man in Hollywood who plays Hendrix's songs just as well as the star himself, and also looks a lot like him. The suggestions that they are one and the same almost predictably soon started being made, and even if you don't believe this is him, the fact that so many people do shows that his death hasn't yet been accepted by everyone.
When we're on stage, it's all in the world. That's your whole life.
Subscribe to Top 5s for more and check out some of our other popular videos.